The issue of subsidy can be likened to what economists call dumping.
Hello, welcome to Noble TV Live with Lily Kevin. Today we're going to be looking at the pains and the gains of subsidy removal in Nigeria. We all know the meaning of subsidy, but if you don't, well, sit back, we'll explain to you. But we all know that subsidy removal in Nigeria has cost the populace more pain than gain. Like our president Bola Tinubu said, he says, I feel your pain, your sacrifice won't be in vain. And that's what Tinubu tells Nigeria. But we're going to look at subsidy. How has it affected the populace negatively or positively? Who are those that are actually benefiting from the subsidy removal? Joining me on this conversation is Mr. Umilo Augustine. Good to have you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now for the benefit of the layman who do not really understand the meaning of subsidy, because some persons think removal of subsidy is actually an act of wickedness. But if we get to understand the meaning of subsidy, then we'll get to understand where we stand. So, in your own opinion, can you please throw more light on subsidy? What exactly does it mean?
Thank you very much once again. You see, the issue of subsidy can be likened to what economists call dumping, which is a situation where you can even sell a product at less than the cost of production.
Okay.
Yes. Now, when you say take it down to subsidy now, you're talking of maybe a product also that you know the actual value of it, but for the purposes of maybe alleviating the sufferings of people as a result of maybe the high cost or something, you now decide to sell at a cost that is less than the production cost. In the case of petroleum now, maybe like we have witnessed a lot of people talking about removal of subsidy, which means that the federal government, as it were, allowed Nigerians to be buying fuel at a cost or at an amount that is actually less than what it costs the federal government to produce it, which means government is paying part of the whatever it is that the fuel is supposed to cost on the, in actually the pump price. Now the federal government is saying we are no longer going to pay any part of this value on behalf of Nigerians. So you are going to be responsible for whatever it is that the cost, the fuel price is going to be.
So according to the federal government, they said that some persons are actually giving them outrageous prices in terms of subsidy. They tell you that they supplied a number of crude, whereas there was nothing like that. Now that's to say that some persons are actually benefiting from subsidy. Do you think it's actually agreeable to remove subsidy as far as Nigeria is concerned? Because it's actually biting hard on the populace, and we can see that.
In the first place, oil was discovered in Nigeria in 1956.
Okay.
And from then up until 1975, when Nigeria realized that we were getting much money, that we had so much money that our problem was how to spend it. Okay. Nobody bothered about the oil subsidy. We were just told if you went to the filling station to buy fuel, you just buy at any cost you were given. But at a point now where the government started subsidizing fuel, at what point was that? We don't know. So, which means that some persons just thought of how to get money from the federal government or something, and decided to introduce what they now call oil subsidy. Otherwise, from the beginning, nobody bothered about how much fuel, was selling. Now, those who that introduced it meant something within themselves. That is to now take advantage of the gullibility of Nigerians to actually get money. And that is what is happening. Now, if the federal government now says fuel is going to be maybe, because NNPC, for example, has also been a monopoly in this regard. Yes. Now, if NNPC now says the cost of actually mining and providing fuel to Nigerians is 100 naira. But for the purposes of allowing everybody to have access to it or afford it, we're now saying you can buy it at 40 naira. Okay. Which means 60 naira is going to be paid by the government. Now, if the 60 naira is paid by the government on behalf of everybody, who now takes charge of that 50 naira and 60 naira? How is it actually distributed in such a manner that it now gets to everybody to be enjoying it? Yes. That is where the fraud comes in. Okay. Because the people that are involved now, they get 60 naira from the government, allow the individuals to pay 40 naira, but they just share the 16 naira without pains. And that is why you see, if you have a contact in NNPC, you can become rich overnight, because somebody will just give you a note to somebody to go buy fuel. And you buy the fuel at 40 naira, for example, whereas the actual cost is 100 naira. Then when you come out, you can sell at any price you like. So that is the fraud in oil subsidy.
Okay, so the fraud has been
introduced by
in subsidy.
Some people who took advantage of the gullibility of Nigerians.
Okay, all right. Now, the World Bank rated Nigeria amongst the 15th fastest economy from 2001 to 2014. Yeah. But this was a period when the subsidy payment scheme was really at its peak. There are those who were of the opinion that subsidy removal motivated, or first subsidy rather, motivated businesses as it reduced production cost. Do you actually buy into this opinion? Did it actually reduce production cost?
No, it didn't. You see, what happened was that when, you know, there's a difference between when the World Bank is assessing what is happening in Nigeria economically, and when Nigerian Office of, that is a Federal Office of Statistics, is also assessing what is happening in the society. And again, these two differ from when Nigerians are assessing what is happening in the economy. For example, the World Bank will be looking at information available to them based on what Nigerians are telling them, economically speaking. Now, the Nigerian Office of Statistics will go take samplings of opinions and say this is what is happening. But the real Nigerians will go to the market and see what is happening. For example, now when you say the inflation rate in Nigeria now is 22%. But federal government, yes, that is 22%. But if you look at the price of pure water, for example, in 2015, pure water was selling for 5 naira.
Yes.
And now, in 2023, pure water is selling for 30 naira. Now, if you look at the inflation rate now, it is over 250%.
Yeah, that's true.
That is the reality on ground. So when you now, whether you bring in a World Bank economies or you bring in Nigerian economies, but the economies from the car park or motor park is more realistic than what we are saying. And that is why Nigerians are insisting that the federal government should look into how they can ameliorate the sufferings of the people based on the sufferings of the people from the feedback they get from the real consumers of products in Nigeria.
Okay, so looking at ameliorating the sufferings of the people, some state governors expressed their support over the president's stance on first subsidy removal. Now, what is your perception about this gesture? Do you think the governors agreed to aid the president in ameliorating the sufferings of the people in their various states, and in their efforts so far? Do you think it's a welcome development? Have they been able to put into place what they actually promised?
Yes, I'm sure you want to look at the advantages of the first subsidy removal and the disadvantages. That is, you know, when you're looking at what the governments are working on now.
Yes,
because the governors they have accepted the disadvantage. Yes, they have accepted. Yeah, they are in support of it.
They are going to aid their citizens or their citizens to ameliorate the suffering.
Yes.
So all the measures they have been, all the measures they've put in place, do you think they have actually gone far? Let's take, for example, Kwara State.
Yes, and
now Kwara State, Kwara State actually reduced their working days to 3.
Yes.
And also Edo State reduced their working days to 3 as well, and also increased their minimum wage to 40,000.
Yes.
Do you think these steps are actually in line?
It's part of it, but don't forget that some of the governors are taking advantage again of Nigerians' inability to understand economic terms. Some of them are making decisions politically. You know, for instance, now, if you say workers are going to be now working for 3 days, very fantastic. A lot of persons will be happy about that because you're no longer going to spend much money on transport. If you say you're increasing salary from 30,000 naira to 40,000, fantastic also, because a lot of persons are going to be happy that the salary was increased. But on the final analysis, you look at, for example, the education sector. There is no person in Nigeria who does not agree that our education standard has actually fallen to a level where it has become embarrassing. You know, because even if you send your children to abroad now or private schools, when they come back to Nigeria or civil service, they come to perform abysmally poor. Now, if you now say workers are going to be working for 3 days, have you taken into account the fact that in Nigerian primary schools and primary schools and nursery schools, teachers are paid to teach per class, not per subject? Now, if you say this group of persons are going to work for 3 times in a week. Now, who takes care of their classes while they are off? Yes, how do you going to make provision for that? Now, if you say, okay, you are going to now provide teachers special preference for them to be going to work without actually following that pattern. Now, if they have to go to work, are you going to review their salary now to be different from the 40,000 minimum wage? Because you cannot ask some person to be working for 3 days and you pay them their money.
Now some persons are actually saying if you tell someone to work for 3 days, that means there isn't much to do in that sector. In that sector,
yes.
That's why for you to tell someone to stay off work for 2 days, it means
the person is idle.
But all these measures now, do you think this move is fair enough to cushion the effect of for subsidy removal? And do you think other states should emulate this gesture?
If they want to emulate, I don't mind.
Okay.
But you must put other necessary measures in place. For example, I just gave an example of a nursery primary schools. Yes. So it means that you are going to now massively employ more teachers, so that if teacher A is off duty now Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then teacher B would now take the responsibility of teaching that class. But yes, so you have to make provision for that. And if you are going to say you are going to increase salary or wages, you are going to also ensure that multiplier effect of the salary increases must be matched with the realities on ground by ensuring that there will be price control, so that inflation will not accompany the prices. Okay,
quickly, my final question. Now, the NLC is asking for an increase in minimum wage from 30,000 to 200,000. Do you think that is exorbitant at rates? And what about those that are not workers?
Paid employees.
Yes. What happens to them?
Yes, that is where NLC didn't demand for price increase. It is TUC. NLC, Joe Ajero said, even if you increase workers' salaries, you only have about 4 million Nigerians who are paid employees. What happens to the over 200 million? Now, that means that the NSC is actually seeking for palliatives that will ensure economic leverage for everybody. Yes, but for TUC that is demanding for 200,000 naira minimum wage. Fantastic also. But if that is done, how will you do it in such a way that it will not affect inflation in the country? And if it affects inflation in the country, how does it now translate to helping also the artisans, like you just mentioned, the unemployed, the people that are not actually represented in any fora, as far as labor representation is concerned? So we expect, or I expect labor, whether TUC or NSC, to come with suggestions that are economically viable, that can be accepted as an alternative for what government is providing. If, for example, now, it doesn't matter if Labour Congress should go the extra mile to consult economists, people who are sound in reasoning, to see how this can be worked out in manners that will actually help both the government and the workers.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Augustine Omilo. You are indeed an interviewer's delight. All right, so let's know your opinion. How do you think the subsidy removal have actually affected the populace, especially Nigerians? Do you think the measures put in place by some state governors will actually ameliorate the sufferings of their citizens? Or do you think there are other measures they are supposed to put in place? Let's get your comment on the comment section. And please do not forget to subscribe, like, and share the Bold TV Live. I am Lady Kevin.